This episode of the meal prep series is probably one of the easiest recipes that I'm going to do in a long time. It literally consists of about 5 or 6 ingredients, and even if you include oil, salt and pepper, they are included in that list as well. So easy to make, really cheap as well, and tastes absolutely delicious. Let's get straight into it.
Alright, starting out, we're going to need 6 cloves of freshly peeled garlic, and we're going to thinly slice these. You can grate them if you want to and turn them into a paste, but different preparation of garlic actually produces different flavors, and the sliced method works the best for this type of recipe. With our preparation out of the way, we can place a large pot of water over a high heat and bring this to a boil, and the quickest way to do this is just place a lid on and then let this go for the time being. Whilst that's doing its thing, we can then prepare the sauce, so place a large pan or pot over a medium-high heat. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and whilst the pan and oil is still cold, we're going to add in the garlic, and then just mix this around and cook it for about 2 minutes, and this is going to create a beautiful infusion. The reason the pan is cold is because we don't want the garlic to cook very quickly, we want it to infuse into the oil as I just said before, and this is going to produce a fantastic flavour throughout the sauce. Now after about 2 minutes, the garlic will start to sizzle. We want to keep this moving so it doesn't burn. If you do burn it, it will make this extremely bitter, and I do recommend starting again if that is the case. Next to go in is 2.5 grams of dried chili flakes, and whilst this is optional if you don't like the heat, it is recommended because this is what makes the dish arrabbiata, which translates to angry pasta, and obviously that comes from the chili flakes. As for this, we're just going to mix this through and cook this for about 30 seconds. We don't want to cook this any longer because the garlic will start to burn and the chili flakes will lose some of their flavour. Once we've created the infusion within the oil, we're going to add in 2 cans or 800 grams of whole Roma tomatoes in sauce, and you can also use crushed tomatoes for this. And I'm going to rinse this out with a little bit of water just so we don't waste any of that tomato. Season to taste with sea salt flakes and then hit it up with some cracked black pepper. I'm using about 20 cracks worth, and I'm also going to add in about a teaspoon or about 2.5 to 3 grams of sugar just to cut back any acidity, but always do it to taste. With that all in, give this a really good mix through so those flavors can become friends, bringing that infusion into the tomatoes for fantastic flavor, and then we're going to bring this to a very light boil. And this is completely optional, but I'm going to add in about 4 stems of basil. This is going to create the perfect infusion. Obviously, if you don't have basil, you don't have to do this, and you can also add in a touch of dried basil if you wanted to. Once this has come to a boil, just mix it through and continue doing so for about 20 to 25 minutes over a low heat, and this is going to reduce down really well and the tomatoes are going to become nice and soft. In the meantime, our pasta water is now at a boil. We can carefully remove the lid and then just generously season the water with some salt. Then going to add in 700 grams of spaghetti. You can use a pasta of your choice, but spaghetti is the perfect one for this type of dish. And then we're just going to cook this for about 1 minute, less than the packet instructions. Going back to the sauce, this has been 20 minutes. It's nice and thick, and you can see those tomatoes are breaking down. I'm going to use the back of a spatula to actually break up the tomatoes a little bit. This will create a nice little rustic texture. You don't have to do this, obviously, if you're using crushed tomatoes, but if you do this with the whole tomatoes, it will create a beautiful sweetness when they pop open into the sauce. The next thing to do is locate and remove those basil stems as they've now done their job, infusing into the sauce, and then just test it for seasoning one last time, adjusting if necessary with sea salt flakes and cracked black pepper. Now that the pasta is cooked 1 minute less than the packet instructions, we can transfer it straight from the water into the sauce, and you can bring along a little bit of that pasta water too, it's completely fine. Then all we need to do is mix this really well, getting the pasta nice and saucy, and we're going to cook it over a low heat for 1 final minute for that pasta to get perfectly al dente, and this is also going to help the sauce thicken even more and coat the pasta even better. Then we can remove it from the stovetop. As for serving up, if you've been watching my meal prep series for a while, you'll know that I just divide everything by 5 and don't really have a specific weight for it. But once all of the pasta is in, you will have some leftover sauce in the pan or pot. Just make sure you evenly distribute it between the 5 containers. Some optional ingredients consist of some Parmesan cheese to add that nice little finishing touch, also some basil leaves, obviously if you use the stalks in the recipe, the leaves do come from that, and cracked black pepper to taste. But what we've then created is these beautiful arrabbiata pastas that are so tasty and super simple to make. And like always, here is all of the macros for each portion individually, and these are 750 milliliter containers. As for storage on these, I highly recommend you allow them to cool down for about 20 minutes before placing on the lids, and then these can be placed in the fridge for up to 4 days and in the freezer for up to 4 months. And I'm also going to vacuum seal these, which will make them last an extra day in the fridge.
With all of that done though, there is only one thing left to do, and that is of course, we can then dig in. From something so simple, you get the best flavor out of this from starting off with slow cooking that garlic at the beginning to build up an infusion, adding those tomatoes in, reducing them down to extract the sweetness. Obviously they are a little bit acidic, so we added the sugar to cut that back. Got a little bit of basil infusion in there as well, and then obviously top it off with fresh basil, Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of cracked black pepper. Overall, this is a fantastic dish, and I can't wait for you to try it. Thanks for watching.